Louis Otieno is a Kisumu-born fellow who went to his early school here in Kisumu before I went to Nakuru to finish my primary school, and eventually to Lenana School in Nairobi and onwards to the US for my college. So that essentially is my academic path. In terms of my affiliations, I associate myself with Kisumu, which is where I was born, and Ndhiwa in HomaBay, where I spent a lot of my holidays as something I've begun to appreciate now, or later on in life, was as a gift from my father, who insisted that majority of the holiday, 3 out of the 4 weeks, he demanded that we spend that in the village. So a lot of my passion for culture, understanding of culture, comes from that tradition here. I'm inspired by things and people who think impossible, because I make it my business to show otherwise. So I tend to take on challenges, most particularly if people or somebody else doesn't think that it can be done. So that'll explain how I ended up in the US instead of India. That'll explain why I was coming back to Kenya when everybody was leaving the country to go to the US. That'll explain why I'm a technical person, I'm a software developer. Why would I come into Africa to do a sales job? People are like, that's a crazy proposition. That is why people argue that in a company like Microsoft, you only lasted for 5, 6, 7 years. I was there for 21 years. And I can go on and on. It's basically, I'm inspired by what people feel cannot be done. As a character, I like to fail fast. So even if it's testing of friendship or relationship or partnership with anybody in business and so forth, I tend to show more than most people would do, partly to establish whether or not you're going to exploit it, abuse it or not. And if you do so, I'd rather find out very early and kill the relationship immediately. So that's just, generally it's my style. It's almost an underdog style. I find I've associated myself with underdogs naturally in any scenario. I really enjoyed herding cattle. Yes, it's because in cattle and animals in general, which is what you see with me, nature in general, I see character. So most people will just look at cattle. I'll be able to see and name them. I used to park on them. Park praising a particular bull or something like that. I just enjoyed that, the camaraderie and the openness in culture in shags or in the village. So basically, a lot of my memories are there. I can go on and on about that. I find that to be the thing that sticks out most to me. A lot of memories from that, whether it's political. I first became aware of politics in 1974. It must have been 10, therefore. So I remember I'm the person who drew the symbol of my father, which is a lion, Simba. So I did a piece that he used in his posters. Those days were not easy posters to do. So even my early political awareness was in the village. Competition, village. Competing, sports, village. It was always there. And then I found that when you're competitive in shags and you came back to town to compete in schools and so forth, you seem to have an advantage of other people for some reason. But those are my memories. I had passion. At the time I was graduating from high school, there was this thing about everybody wanting to, the cool thing was to be an architect. A lot of my best friends were architects. I didn't do well enough in high school to qualify for architecture. So I had an option of going to India or going to, okay, India is where I was going. And I remember going all the way to Nairobi to go to India. Incidentally, I was trying to pursue my architecture because my natural talent is actually art and drawing. I was actually working at steel structures right out of high school. And the project at that time was the building of Kasarani. So I remember actually drafting some of the work at Kasarani. And then to go to India to pursue that. But then I had an aunt of mine, Benta, who convinced me, knowing my character, that India was not a place for me. And that is that the US would be better. There was just a matter of the cost of school in India versus the cost of school in the US. With the entire course in India, the amount it will take to complete a course in India would only last you one semester in the US. But my aunt had enough confidence in me to tell me that there's a lot more to life than just school, and she thought that I would thrive in the US. So 1984, Christmas Eve, I landed in the US. And actually one of my other memories relates to the way I was picked up from the airport by an uncle of mine who I would never forget. In fact, when I go to Crash, when I see him, I just smile because he's the one of I know you know, I know what you know, right? Picked me up from JFK, New York, and was taking me to this aunt of mine, further up in upstate New York. And he stops at this department shop, or department store as they call it in the US, called Marshall's. Not saying anything to me, just gets out and I follow him. It's very cold, it was the beginning of winter. Walked into this Marshall's. He walked straight into the men's sections. He asked me what size my pants were. I told him something like medium. He picked up a 6-pack of white Fruit of the Loom underwear. And then turned around and walked to the teller, paid for it, and gave it to me dramatically, saying, "Omera, this is the only thing anybody's giving you in America. I am now taking you to your mother," which sounds very bad. He said it in Luo, meaning my aunt. And I know you cannot be living with your mother. So you go there, dispose of everything, and find yourself a place in a matter of weeks when I'll come and visit you. And that's how I was pushed out into life in the US.